All right. Hey, today we've got a friend of mine from my coaching school, Kory Katuna, that is with us, and I'm really excited to talk with her and learn more about what she's been up to since we went through our coaching school 2 years ago or more. She's got she's got quite a follower and some really cool things going on with a boot camp. She's a writer, she's a blogger, she's a traveler. Uh, quite the quite the what is it? I think the phrase is the old soul in a young body or young mind, and I think that makes it a lot of fun. And I'm really looking forward to talking with you, Kory, and great to have you on. And thanks for taking time this morning.
Oh yeah, I'm super excited to be here.
Great, great. Well, I'd like to kick it off. If Where are you right now? Are you traveling or are you home?
Nope, I'm in my mom's art studio.
Oh, very cool. Very
Yeah.
cool. That's
Great.
what a great vibe that must be to have that feeling and energy of creation there, huh?
Yes. It's actually one of the best things is having my mom doing art in the house. Everybody can just feel it. It like boosts everybody's creativity when you can see
Mm.
my mom working on a painting in the middle of the house.
Wow. That's
Yeah.
cool.
It's always fascinating. I think that's one of those behavioral, like evolutionary things. When you're around something like that, it just feeds off each other. When you're around that much creativity, it just feeds and just gets better and better.
I agree.
Yeah, I think that about the only creativity we've got going on here in the McGregor household is Suzanne's painting. Suzanne and I both, well, I help out a little bit, are painting the doors and the molding white. So very exciting, very creative here. So
Well, you're running a podcast, so that's pretty creative.
yeah, that is
That's
there is
true.
some creation there. Yeah. Well, hey, tell me a little bit about this boot camp because I'm really curious about it, and I love following and hear about it on the periphery. But I'd like for you to share a little bit more if you don't mind.
Yeah, boot camp is like my baby. I like built the thing that I wanted to go through. So it's a 70-day. Actually, it started off as a 66 day. I just Googled like how long does it take to integrate a new habit? And that was the first number that popped up. I was like, cool, 66 days.
I love it.
Um, so I was like, okay, 66 days to do habit building. So there's three foundational habits. So every boot camp has the same three habits, which I disclose after people join. I can give you guys a couple hints. One of them is meditation.
Hmm.
Um, so that's the sort of skeleton of boot camp is these three daily habits that get integrated every single day. They also get one-on-one coaching with me. And the first boot camp, it was just with me. This is the second boot camp, and there are 8 coaches that I pulled from the first boot camp who just crushed it at the first boot camp. So I've been sort of training them to be coaches, and they have their own small teams, and so they get unlimited one-on-one coaching with those coaches, and then they get 2 sessions each with me. And then in addition to that, every 10 days now, since it's 70, or every week, since it's 70 days, there are 10 weekly sessions, 7 of which I lead and 3 of which are guest speakers, including Bruce Schneider,
I
who
was
is the
just going to say, didn't I see that you've got Bruce on as one of your guests?
best rate. I'm
That
so
is
excited.
cool. And Bruce is such a down to earth guy. He wrote a blurb, whatever that's called, back of the cover blurb for my book. He
Oh
saw
my
that I
God.
was he saw that I was publishing a book and hit me up on Facebook and said, "Hey, I'd love to write a blurb for you if
I
you."
got that right here.
Yeah, there it is.
That's so cool.
Yeah,
Yeah, he is. He's
that,
gonna,
that
so what he's gonna do for his, all 3 of these guest speakers are just, oh, so good. I can't even stand it. But so the first one already went. She's a public speaking coach who is like just a pro public speaking coach. My mom's been to a million public speaking coaches, and this one we went together to one of her workshops, and both of us cried. It was like so relevant. It was like, oh my God.
I guess that's
Then
a
the
good
second one,
thing, right? That you cried.
right? Not it was just crying as she was introducing it. It was like, oh my God, I want to learn this. Oh my God, she's speaking right
Ah,
to my soul. Um, and then anyway, there's another woman, Jade Electra, who I follow on Instagram, and she's just like stunning. And then Bruce, what his approach is gonna do he's going to just join the call. He told me not to give him any updates about boot camp along the way. He just is going to join the call, sit down, look at everybody's face, and decide what needs to be said.
Wow.
Man, that guy has some great insights. I do love chatting with him and listening to him talk. That'll be fun. Good for you, man. That's exciting. So your audience. So I think, didn't you say I'm stuck on 70. 70 is the number of days. How many people do you have signed up? I know you have a lot.
65 people in this boot camp.
How many again?
Wow.
Sorry.
65.
Wow. Yeah, that's awesome. So what's kind of like the demographic, or is it like all over the map?
God, well, literally all over the map. I thought it was going to be majority United States, but it's less than 50% United States. More women than men, but I'd say probably like 1/3 men.
Wow.
And just all over the map age-wise too. It's really like, you know how IPEC talks to us about finding a niche. It's like, well, I have no clue. I have no idea what niche is.
That's too funny because yeah, when you have that wide of a demographic. So how are you pushing it out, like social media, or is it all referrals? Because it sounds like with that kind of a wide demographic, it must just be who do you know who sort of stuff, huh?
I mean, I don't do any paid promotion. So I just post on my Instagram and my Facebook, and then some people who have done it before will like post also on their stories, like, yeah, you got to do this. This was great. This is what I got out of it. And I think next in future boot camps, I'll start doing paid promotions, but I don't, yeah. I mean, I like that you bring this up because I don't know who I would target.
Yeah, because that's what they're going to ask you, right? Is, well, who do you want to target on Facebook,
Yeah, exactly.
or whatever? And man, if you're all over regionally, I mean, geographically all over the map, and then niche wise all over the map, hey, you're doing something right, and that's awesome. That's exciting.
And that's, success brings success. We talk about that all the time, and it's just going to keep doing stuff like that. And I was going to say that's one of the impressive things I already picked up on, because you said this is your second year doing the boot camp, right? Or second run through of it. So coming from the sports background more, it's so impressive you already went full circle on it, that you have coaches coming back around to be on the mentoring side this time around. And I was just realizing that's so impressive already to have that full circle going that usually takes so long to develop inside organizations.
Oh, that's so cool. I love that. Thanks.
Yeah. Well, it reminds me of stuff I used to do in SF, and we'd call it train the trainer, and you know how long that took. I mean, it was usually like a 3 iteration thing. So you must have you found some really quality people. Well,
Definitely.
let me throw this at you. With that kind of success and that kind of growth, where do you see it going? What's your vision for it?
Cool. Well, the vision that excites me the most about boot camp is that while I continue to do all kinds of other stuff on the side, boot camp just gets to stay my baby. And whenever I want to launch a boot camp, there's already a wait list. I want to cap it like at around 100 people, so that I can do one-on-one coaching with everyone. And that it's just totally organic every time. And it's just the thing that I look forward to, 2 or 3 times a year, or however often I feel like it. And that it never that I never get into some sort of bigger machine that I have to maintain, but that it really just gets to stay so personal and so exciting for me every time, because that's what I built it as. And I think a lot of times people can ruin stuff just trying to scale it.
No, that's a great perspective, because really, with all my business stuff I've been doing, that was my first thought is, all right, well, how are you going to scale this thing, Kory, and what are you going to do? That was my leading question to get you to tell us that. But you slammed the door on that, at least for now. But I think that's awesome. I mean, that sometimes that's the secret sauce, right? That's the secret sauce, that you have that interaction, and it fulfills your purpose in dealing with people, and that's what makes it special, I bet.
And I'll take that analogy a step further. It's that secret sauce you're making for your burger or whatever, right? And it's all about how you can scale it up. Like we were talking about Whataburger the other day, that tragic sale of Whataburger. but it's all about how much of that sauce you can make at once without watering down the product, right?
Say that last part again. How much you can make it?
How much of it you can make at once without watering down that product.
Oh,
And
nice.
like you
Yeah.
said, you cap it at 100 because you want to make sure that you're still able to give that personal interaction. And, you know,
Yeah.
it's growing through other coaches or what have you. You still got to make sure you get that personal interaction there because that's really what the product's all about.
Exactly. I mean, and I think I can like learn about how to do pricing, you know, get it just so it's at the sweet spot of pricing as there's more and more demand so that it does kind of scale.
Mm-hmm.
But I do want the experience to remain pretty close to how it is.
No, that's neat. And you know, one of the things on a spin off of that, I'm gonna run us down something here. Is what are you more excited to create? So if the boot camp is your baby, are you gonna have any more kids? I mean,
I'm sure I will. Like I was doing a visioning exercise recently, and there's a few things that I want to get into that I haven't even like kicked the door in. Yeah, just well, okay. This is actually I'm gonna detour because this has been a fun topic that has been coming up recently. So my dad and one of my best friends is a 63-year-old man. My dad is in his 60s. Some of my dad's friends have all asked me to run a dad's boot camp, which I have some reservations about that because they're truly just joining because they're curious. You know, they're just like, what is this? Like, what is this all about? I want to, and for me, boot camp is so experiential. It's like, you got to want to be there for yourself. You got to really be willing to get on the court and not just be in the stands. And so this would almost be like a boot camp, for people who just want to stay in the stands.
Okay.
So I'm kind of interested in exploring some other weird things like that with boot camp, you know, boot camp for dads, or I used to be really big environmental activist and interested in just a lot of the sort of social activism movements, which I'm not anymore. And I think I've learned a lot of stuff that could help activists become actually more effective and less oppositional and burnoutable. So anyway, so related to boot camp, I'm sort of interested in experimenting with different directions with that, little one-offs, little like a la cartes. And then otherwise, I want to write a book. I want to write a best-selling book. And I'm involved with this company, Trinfinity. That's where I do graphic design for Trinfinity. And I just think that company has a lot of cool stuff going on. So I could kind of go in any direction.
You know, you touched on something I was going to ask you later on, but I want to jump on it now. Is that social impact? And I'm curious, what is your goal? What is your social impact goal?
Can I reword that because you kind of stole my question?
Oh, okay. Go ahead.
I was going to say, do you consider yourself more of a social entrepreneur or a business entrepreneur in that sense? Because you talk about this great impact you have on a social level, obviously, by coaching and helping people, but then you're still building the business behind it. So which one do you take more pride in, and which one do you see yourself putting more into?
Interesting. I've never even made that distinction. Can you just tell me what a social entrepreneur is?
So social entrepreneur as in creating more of a social type movement, not necessarily behind, it could be a nonprofit, something like that, rather than a business entrepreneur, which is basic entrepreneur is you see a problem and you're coming up with a solution for it. Socially, it's a social problem, whether it's coaching, lack of motivation for some people or something like that, or the business problem of there is a lack of coaching for the business side of it rather than the personal side. Does that make more sense?
Oh, interesting. So business is like finding the like the need and filling the need, whereas
Right.
social is like having a vision and just like attacking that vision.
Right. That's a great way of putting it. Yeah.
More social, but I think I'm interested in the business side of things. Like I would like to learn more about that. That just as you talk about that, it's like, ooh, kind of want to dig into that. But I think I'm sort of naturally more built for the social entrepreneurship.
And that makes sense, because with your coaching, that's more the social entrepreneur side, and then the business has just kind of fallen in line with it as you've gone, which is
Right.
great. And that's one of the things I've talked about a lot with the nonprofit I was working for. How you can talk all you want about having a social impact, but if you're not generating any money, then you better have some wealthy friends.
Nice.
And
Yep.
that's it. That's kind of just the fundamentals of life, unfortunately, is unless there's money behind what you're doing, it's not going to get that far. And if you can figure out how to have that social impact with a little bit, not that you need to be scraping that much money off the top, but just enough money to run your organization behind it, that's how you can have a bigger impact in the long run.
Nice. I'm into that.
That's and so my spinoff of that was, because I work with a lot of entrepreneurs, and what I'm seeing more and more of in the entrepreneur space is that they're creating a business, a standard business, but as part of that business stand up, even in the very early stages, they're making a commitment to give back to some, whether it's, save the sea turtles or, food for homeless, whatever, they're, 10% of profit on Tuesdays always goes back to this organization. So that was more in the specific, and Camden's was very much in the broader sense.
Okay, gotcha.
So that's what I'm throwing at you. So with your success with the boot camp, that's a social impact in itself, because you're creating better people, which is really cool. But there's also the business side of that. And how are you taking that business side, and to use the example, and not to put you on the spot too much, but to use the example, what are you doing with your profits on Tuesday? That sort of thought process of how you are going to make a broader difference in the world.
Oh, that's so cool. I just haven't thought about that. So far, my only costs are paying the guest speakers. So, yeah, I love that, actually. So, but what would I give back to? I like that. Just tuning into like what I'm creating on the side as like the benefit. That's so cool. I just never would think of that.
Yeah, and to coach it along that way while we're going in this direction, might as well. You can think of anything that has that complementary effect to your coaching. Anything that's kind of in that same. We were saying how there's not really a niche there, but I guess it's the coaching or leadership niche. Creating that in more people, and trying to provide that impact on a larger scale. Doing more besides just the intensive coaching, and kind of trying to spread it as a whole.
That's so cool. Like, so I mean, it almost feels like so new that I haven't even thought about like what I'm doing as like a proper business yet. It's just
right.
Like, whoa, it's working. Oh my God. So, but I've always liked the idea of whenever I do start a business, which I have, of it being a B Corp. You guys know about B Corps?
I've heard it, but refresh everybody's memory.
I haven't, so go ahead.
Okay. They're benefit corps. It's like a certification based in Boulder, but it's all over. You'll see B Corp now everywhere you look, now that I've said this. And they have to equally benefit people, planet, and profit. So they have to be they have to be profitable. They have to be able to benefit themselves, the planet, and they have to benefit their people and their surrounding communities. And they have to prove it. So there's a really rigorous like audit that can confirm that a B Corp is legitimate. So I always thought, yeah, for sure, whenever I have a business, it's going to be a B Corp. And I almost haven't even realized that I have a business. But it's great. I'm definitely going to do this now. I mean, just to even bring this to my attention, I'm going to figure out how to be a B Corp for sure.
That's cool. And you know what you're doing? You're what, and now I can't remember who says it. I think it was, I won't even try to remember or guess at it, but it's that whole thing, if you're living your passion, then you never work a day in your life. And that's what you're doing right now. And that's a pretty special place to be.
It is. I feel super lucky.
Well, to kind of tie things back around, I got a question. You're only the third guest technically, so I think I'm 2 for 3 on this now of trying to ask this question to everybody.
Your brother doesn't count, Camden.
I didn't ask him the question, so then I'm 2 for 2. So I'll take that right to the bank. So Kory, how would you define leadership, just broadly?
Oh, so cool. Um, well, okay, to be technical, it's having followers.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I think there's just, I mean, I don't think that's like the ideal leadership, but I
Right.
think
Well,
that's the truth.
I think that's a great way of putting it. And that's why, we asked Pete Turner this last week. And I think it's going to be a fun question to throw out to people because you get these really different perspectives. And, they're all very true. Leadership's such a broad topic. And that's one thing we were talking about last week with Pete was how big step of leadership is being that first follower. So I love that you said that leadership is defined as having the followers, because I think that's true. Like, you can lead yourself out to wander in the desert, but you're gonna die out there alone if you don't have everyone following you, right?
That's great. Yes, exactly. I actually had a question for you guys. I'm not sure if now's the time.
Go ahead.
I was
She asked
listening
questions.
I was listening to your Leadership is Leadership podcast, and you guys just said something super cool, and then you just skipped over. And I wanted to know more about this because it's applicable. I feel like it's really like a relevant thing, which Kim, you said that Otis told you and your siblings that the hardest thing you'll ever do is lead your peers.
Yes.
And then you're just like, and then next topic. Hold on.
Oh, yeah.
Do it.
Well, fair enough. I mean, we can dive into that. I know
Yeah.
I've got lots of stories. I'm sure you do too, Dad. So basically that came probably, it would have been summer between my sophomore and junior year of high school. So at this time, he was the head coach there. He just moved up from assistant coach. And myself and two of my good friends who'd been playing together for 4 years at that point were all selected as captains for the following season. And so naturally, my dad gave great leadership advice, as you could only expect from him. If y'all don't talk to him much, every single sentence out of this man's mouth is it's a parable. Like, you could just write a book walking around with that.
True.
But you're always getting that kind of stuff, and it's just whether or not those nuggets stick with you. And this was one that did. Was, the hardest thing you'll ever do in life is lead your peers. And it's so true. And you can see this so much in sports, captains in sports, and even, coaching because you want to be a lot of coaches, you want to be your players' friends too. But you're going through, and it's all about trying to balance the leadership, the put your foot down, this is what needs to happen, as well as the I want to be friends with them. And we could have a whole bunch of guys on that we played rugby with, and I'm sure they'll rip me to shreds on some some jerk things I did when I was captain, trying to push the envelope and things and trying to get guys to be better, and not always being the best friend on that. And that's the balance you have trouble with. And there's plenty of other guys I've played for and played with that have the exact opposite issue, where they're just buddy with everybody, they're never able to crack the whip when they need to. And it's all about, I think that's really what he's saying there, is it's all about walking that fine line of you want to keep them as your friends, but there's a reason there's leaders and followers to a lot of extent.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's that ultimate position of your true leadership skills come into play, because your peers in that position, because they're peers, right? So you've got a label placed on you, but they're truly peers. So it's not like you can really do anything, because in the high school sense, these are guys that you sit in class with, or go to the movies with, or just hang out and play video games with. But you've also got to say, hey, look, quit screwing around, because if we want to do what we say we want to do, we want to win, then you've got to get off your ass and you got to quit being a distraction. And that's a hard place to be, to look a friend in the eye and tell them, man, you're screwing this up. Yeah.
And I think that lays the seeds for a lot of managerial and leadership skills more broadly, because even when you do have a title to where you have that I'm blanking on the different types of power structure I've learned in my management classes, that I want to say coercive power, where you got the firing ability, you can all that kind of stuff. When you're at that point in a management structure, do you want to be flexing that power that I could fire you any minute every single day? No, that's probably not going to lead that's not, you can, whether you think of them as your peers or not, you probably should. And if you're thinking of them as your peers, they don't want that hanging over their head that entire time. And so you're treating them like your peers. I think, tie this back around, Dad, you've talked about this. It's why you wanted to join the Texas National Guard before you went to the Army as an officer, because you wanted to experience what it was like being enlisted in the Army so you could get it from both sides.
Right. Right.
And then I would argue that allowed you to treat them all as your peers as you continue to climb through your military career, right?
Well, it also gives you that point of you've been there and you're not afraid. It's never sinned. If as a leader, you should never tell somebody to do something you're not willing to do yourself. Right. I like to refer to it. And in my book, I even called a chapter, "Don't be afraid to get your hands dirty." That's what that's about is, pick up the shovel and help dig the hole. The hole needs to be dug. Pick up the shovel, pick up a broom, a mop, whatever it is, and help.
Nothing's below your pay grade.
That's right. If the job needs to get done, you're still part of the team.
I love that.
Yeah. Wow. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Look at us already, man. Look at that.
Yeah, that's so cool. I mean, it's something that that I wonder about, sort of even outside of the context of like an organization or a team, but even just like your friends, when you can just be like, "You're fucking this up for you," like that, like, and there's almost just like a it feels like it should be leadership, but it's like, I don't have the permission. It hasn't been requested. It's not my jurisdiction. It's like, God, I got to get in there. I want to get in there, but it's like, you just can't fill like a non-void.
I'm so glad you took it that direction, because I was already thinking that that's that real world application of it, of your friend group, your family, and all these types of things where even if you were the defined leader, you don't want to be leading in that fashion. You don't want to be, like I said earlier, cracking the whip. That's not the type of leadership you want. You want all these soft management tactics, these nice social pushes and things that kind of encourage people to do what you want, but you're not putting down that hard line. And that goes for your friends, your family, or anything. If you're right. I know for your example, where my mind went on it was more, you got a friend that's going down a bad path in life and you're trying to steer him back on it. And that's a great example there. But I was even thinking it's as simple as, and this is half a joke, but we're all talking about going to see a movie tonight. I'd really love to see that new Tarantino movie. Y'all don't want to see it. How can I kind of softly push that out there and lead my team to go see that movie that I really want to see?
That's a great example, honestly.
That is, because I was going the other way with the whole, hey, you got a friend going down the wrong path, because I'm like, man, that's when you put your hand in their chest and you push them back against the wall and say stop. But yeah, I think that's the easy one, really, once you make that decision to do the influential method like you're talking about, and getting that group of people to say, yeah, I do like that idea, and getting them motivated and excited about it.
Yeah.
That's great. Yeah.
I'll tie that back into my behavioral sciences, like I always do. It's all about playing with those incentives, right? I look at you and I say, well, I know that you, Dad, you might not have the incentive to see the Tarantino movie that I want to see, but that movie's showing an hour earlier than the one you want to see. And I know you got the incentive to go to bed by 10 o'clock.
Damn right.
And then I frame the question back that way. Now we're 2 votes to 1, and Kory's got to come see the movie with us.
That's right. Sorry, Kory, you lose out.
This is why my friends don't trust me.
They've got you figured out.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I want to throw something. Go ahead.
Oh, you go ahead. Oh, you got it.
All right. So I wanted to throw something. I was reading some of the stuff you sent me, Kory, and just kind of catching up on what you've been doing. And one of the things that jumped out at me was fearlessness. And I wanted to ask you, what scares you? If you're operating without fear, what scares you?
I would never call myself fearless. But moving in the direction of fearlessness, I think is kind of just, it's so worth it. I mean, that's one thing. So I do experience fear. Normal. Let's see. Let me think of a good example. It's so cool. We just had Johanna Walker, this public speaking coach, and she asked us in terms of sharing our story ourselves. What's our comfort zone? What's our risk zone? And what's our danger zone? And so, I mean, I was thinking about like, what is my danger zone on this? And it would be speaking to a group of people who already kind of disagreed with me, who already wasn't super receptive of me, and then trying to persuade them, trying to like land something on their hearts with vulnerability and, you know, and but just that, like, to persuade a group of people who's already like not really trying to hear me would definitely be my danger zone. So, and I can get some sort of, even for boot camp calls, I can get some of that like nervousness before the like flutters. And what I've learned about that kind of thing, I mean, I'm still so learning about it all, but that you just have to keep going toward it. Like you can never be like, oh, that's scary, so I'm not gonna. It's like, damn it, it's scary, so I have to. Mm-hmm. You just have to, or else the fear builds, and then you become more and more of a victim to it. It's almost just like a guidepost. Like you got to go this direction. Now you feel the fear. Now you know where you have to go. I mean, you can't not.
I love that, and if I can tie that into another Coach Otis story back in the day, was I'm sure you've said this. This is another one you probably said all the time. I just remember once, senior year before a rugby state championship, we're all in the locker room. He comes in and goes, "All right, guys, I'm nervous." And everyone's kind of, well, he's like, "Who needs to piss right now?" Everyone looks at him. He's like, "I'm so nervous, I got to go piss right now." Because if you're not so nervous that you have to piss, then you're not ready for the game. And if you're not focused on the game, if you're not nervous, you don't feel that energy, then you're not ready to play. And in the most roundabout way ever, that made so much sense. Because if you're not going towards that fear, if you're not pushing yourself out of that comfort zone, what's the point?
Nice. I love that. Oh my God, I love that.
You know, life is about challenges, isn't it? I mean, if you're not challenging yourself, whether it's taking on something that scares you, you know, if you're afraid of heights, like Suzanne went up on a ski lift with me last weekend. You know, she's scared to death of heights, and I think that might be the first time in a long time that she's been on something like that. And she white knuckled it a bit, but by the time we were heading, because we had to do 2 chairs, get off one, get on the next one, and then do the same thing going back down, she was kind of enjoying it. You know, it wasn't that bad. So, you know, when you face that fear, and you know, that's a challenge, right? Well, I'm not saying I was listening to Tim Ferriss talk to a guy about grizzly bears. I'm not saying stand up and put your hands on your hips when that grizzly bear is charging at you. That's a little bit different kind of fear. But those things that are preventing you from what you want to achieve, those blocks, exactly. Yeah, take those on as a challenge, man, and fight them. Yeah, and that's a good thing, though, right? You know, I mean, yeah, I'm not saying every time you need to get up and talk in front of somebody, you should be feeling like you need a pee, but if you aren't getting a little bit of butterflies about it, then, you know, are you truly pushing the envelope of who you are and who you want to become?
I love that.
Yeah.
It's almost, that is the prerequisite. It's that, like, this thing that scares me is between me and the future me that I'm excited about. That resonates. That's like expanded and even better than the me that I am now. So it's like, it is the direction that you want to go. I mean, because I agree with the bear thing. It's like, go get the fuck out of there.
Yeah, or practice the fetal position, right? Go into a little meditative state. But taking those challenges on and overcoming that fear. Yeah, that's something to grab onto and run down the path. Wow. Awesome. Hey, I'd like to just throw it over to you, Kory, you know, as we start to wrap it up, and anything special that you're focused on, you want to talk about before we wrap this up?
Are you guys meditating?
Yeah, I am. I'm about 4 to 5 days a week. I'm doing pretty damn
That's
good.
Great, Otis.
Thank you.
How do you meditate?
I use the Calm app on my phone, and so it's only about 10 to 12 minutes, but, you know, where I was when you and I first met. That's that's light years.
What do you notice that you get out of it?
Mental focus. And that's what I tell guys that, from my background, it's no different than doing PT every morning, and working out and training the muscles in my body. I'm training my brain, and it's enabled me to focus when I want to focus.
That's beautiful.
I
It's
think
just
that
what I teach. Go ahead, Kim.
I think that's an interesting way you just put it, Dad, kind of comparing it to PT. Because for me, and I haven't, you can coach me on this, Kory, any other time, because I haven't gone through much on meditating. I'm aware somewhat, I guess, but my morning routine, I like to read for a bit and then go through, do my physical therapy, yoga type. And I kind of treat that as my meditation time. And I think I was just thinking about it for myself, because for me, it almost feels like my best meditation time I could think of probably in my life was probably right before a rugby game. And it's kind of just, getting the stretches, feeling in tune with your body, making sure you're all good and warmed up. And it's not just the physical there. It's all I'm doing is picturing the game and picturing what I'm going to do in the next, hour and a half of rugby. And I treat it that same way. So I guess you can go ahead and try to give me a score on that, see if I'm close, since I haven't gotten much training on meditation.
Super meditative. That is exactly, I mean, you both kind of hit the nail on the head as far as it being about concentration and focus. That's what I teach, is that with meditation, you can put 100% of your focus on something that's other than whatever you're directly experiencing. So even if it's just your breath, which, I mean, that's a great start, but even to put yourself in a completely different situation, like visualization, like what you just described with pre-rugby, you can change your direct experience just using the focus of your mind. And then that focus carries over. So I love what you said, Otis, that focus, that capacity to concentrate carries over to everything. Right.
And that's the way I was actually breaking this down in my notes ahead of time, put some stuff down about meditation, because the way I think about it, it's I always tie things back to my behavioral sciences, but it's all about framing and doing that early in the day, the meditation, the workout, whatever it is for you, that kind of builds the frame through which you view your day. And then that goes back to that, the red truck effect that we talk about. You're looking for a red truck, you're going to see a red truck. Totally. And if you build that mindset where you're going to have a positive day, you're going to go out and have a positive day.
That's great. Beautiful.
Awesome.
That's a little poetic to end on. How about that?
Boy, very very philosophical coming from Kim. Wow.
Oh yeah.
Actually got off of the behavioral sciences into a little behavioral philosophy. That's cool.
Well, that's why it's fun. It's a big piece of it. You got to tie in the philosophy too.
Yeah. So one of the things we like to do to round out our show, Kory, is what you learn. And I'll tell you, among other things, the thing that just pops into my head is Google says 66 days to get a new habit. That's, I'm a firm believer in that. I tell people I work with, my clients, that 90 days, but Google's much more efficient than me, apparently. So 66 days to learn and adopt a new habit. So thank you for that. Camden?
Well, I hadn't heard the term, make sure I'm getting this right because I wrote it down, B Corp. Like B Corporation, is that what it was, right?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Well, I had not heard of that before. I love that. That's something I'm pretty passionate about on the sustainability side and agriculture especially. And I love that because it kind of ties everything into the business model, which is so lacking. It's one of the big flaws of economics over history is that it didn't account for all of these different social factors and externalities and things that turns out matter in real life. And so I'm just always so fascinated with how you can tie those externalities and things to it. And I think the B Corps is an interesting way of doing that.
Awesome. Actually, same with me. I loved just tuning into like that. What I'm running with boot camp is a proper business, and to give back with it and to actually start now as it's just totally in its inception phase and just get into like what it takes to build a B Corp. Cause I'm sure there's going to be stuff that once I get the ball rolling more, I'd be like, damn, I wish I did this in the beginning. Mm-hmm. So I love that. I love that even came to my attention in this. It's great.
Great.
Glad we could help.
How can people get a hold of you, Kory? Find out more about boot camp and what you're doing.
It's super simple. My name, Kory Katuna, CORYKATUNA.com is my website, and at Kory Katuna on Instagram.
Awesome. Well, hey, thank you again for taking the time out of your day to join in with us and chat with us and teach us a little bit more about boot camp and meditation and how to grow and live life without fearlessly. There we go. Awesome.
Ooh, that's
Thank you guys
the
so
word
much.
of the day.
Yeah.
This was super fun. I appreciate you having me on the podcast.
Awesome.
Thank you so much for being here.